How do you feel about your life? Does it feel stable? Do you feel secure? Well, what if that was to come to an end? Not now, and not too far away, but just enough that we'll forget before it happens. But as it does, the memories of what we should have done will come flooding back. Quite literally, actually. After that, many will be left poor, jobless, and destitute, as we are strung to a new and unforgiving paradigm: climate change. Climate change, a controversial topic known by another name, global warming, is laid with knowns and unknowns. First, to clear confusion, climate change is the shift in global weather patterns, i.e. temperature, precipitation, wind, etc. And global warming, well, that's kind of self-explanatory. Regardless to names or semantics, this topic presents a great issue to the sanctity of not only our lives, but to society as well. To start, what's causing the problem? Climate change and global warming have been strung to one main underlying cause: emissions. Emissions of gases such as carbon dioxide or CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide, all known as greenhouse gases, are generally accepted to be the cause. As these gases get trapped in the atmosphere, they force solar energy to become trapped in it and force the heat to slowly rise. Evidence that these events are transpiring has been piling up for years. For example, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, or the IPCC, estimated in 1990 that, quote, sea level would rise by 1.9 millimeters a year, end quote. The measurement, however, was recently shot down by NASA as it was proved to be much higher. Quote, the actual rate between 1993 and 2019 was higher than 3.3 millimeters a year, end quote. Other evidences include the California wildfire seasons of 2018 and 2019, the hurricane season of 2017, and the Australian bushfires of this year. These events are evidence because as the globe warms, the climate changes and becomes more extreme, leading to drier temperatures, which can cause fires and more unstable water conditions. Despite the evidence, this issue is still very divided upon, as many skeptics oppose this view for the proclamation that the evidence is flawed. One objection a climate skeptic would make is the argument that these changes are all part of the natural cycle of Earth. The Earth heats, cools, and has crazy weather all the time. Now, to an extent, this is true. Earth does have a cyclical nature where even extreme events occur, and experts have added this as a factor. NASA and other scientific organizations have stated that events such as volcanic eruptions releasing CO2, shifts in oceanic plates affecting climate, and random solar radiation blasts that warm the planet are all contributing factors, but quote, they generally agree that these factors alone does not explain the substantial rise in Earth's temperature, end quote. Another argument that could be made is the environment creates and recycles CO2 anyway, so any emissions by humans should be cancelled out. Again, this statement does hold water. The environment does create CO2 in many ways, and about 200 billion metric tons of it is turned into O2, or oxygen, via photosynthesis. But there's more to tell. Human emissions are estimated to be at 7 billion metric tons of CO2 per year, which is 3.5% more than nature can eat up. That, coupled with deforestation and all other gases that humans emit, the planet simply can't keep up, as the skeptics are saying. The final argument that skeptics may have is that the data is inconsistent. How do we know this is actually happening? Well, yes, on occasion the data can be wrong, but these types of analytics and science are relatively new and based mostly on predictions, so it's almost impossible to be 100% accurate. Also, in many cases, such as the sea elevation study mentioned earlier, incorrect observations are usually underestimates. So, we know what climate change is, and why it's controversial, but why should we care if the planet's getting a little warmer? Well, let me tell you. As the temperature rises, Another reason is that the air quality would just get worse and worse until it eventually became deadly from all the CO2. These reasons alone are enough to sway people to confront climate change, but there's still one factor that supersedes all other consequences mentioned: economic impact. Now, these reasons alone are enough to sway some people to confront climate change, but there's still one factor that supersedes all other consequences mentioned: economic impact. This argument in particular runs more of an equilibrium than the other arguments, so to start, we have the economic impact of climate change itself. Done by the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, estimates showed that economic effects of climate change could reach 0.7 to 2.4% of the US's annual GDP by the end of the century, and loss of workers would amount to $500 billion a year, and a less job market would result in $150 billion a year. The report also suggests that trillions of dollars in hurricane damages is possible. If the 2017 hurricane season is any reference, that would be $265 billion in total. Graph that multiple times, and hoo boy. Other costs such as destruction of the fishing and farming industries due to environmental change is also increasingly likely. So, if it costs trillions of dollars to fix the damages caused by climate change, then why not invest to stop it? The reason is that many believe that the solution may be as bad as the problem. In 2015, UN delegates came together to discuss the inaction of fixing climate change, and their findings were as follows. Finding to be too bureaucratic and too long-winded to be trustworthy or understandable. Investors also find that the new technologies to replace coal and oil are too expensive and too new to know if they are a worthy investment. The last cost mentioned was something called the loss and damages cost, which are fines that developing nations give to the West to compensate for climate damage, which may halt progress as many countries might exploit it by claiming all disasters as West fault. So, to conclude, the issue of climate change or global warming is very conflicting. There are many dangerous issues that we simply don't know how to fix yet. But if I were to make a suggestion, I believe that this issue should be treated moderately. Discovery and use of more sustainable, non-emissionary tech should be encouraged, but not so quickly that the world loses stability. This may be a big issue, but we must exercise caution as we tackle it, lest we create a bigger issue and disrupt our lives.